a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is one stunning picture.
Honoree Lee is full out now, second on the outside. They've gone to line. 1,000 words has done it.
Hello, everybody. Mike Welsch coming to you again from Keeneland with the Tuesday edition of the Daily Racing Form Breeders' Cup Workout Report, brought to you by the good folks at Spendthrift, who the home of 2020 Classic winner, Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Authentic, whose first weanlings will sell in November. If you didn't believe the old adage, fast horses work fast, well, it certainly applied this morning. We had 4 Breeders' Cup workers this morning, 3 of them going in sprint races, 2 of them in the sprint, 1 of them in the filly and mare sprint, and they were motoring out there today. Now, the track was tighter today, it seemed to me, than it has been in previous days, and these horses made it look even faster this morning. And we'll start with Jackie's Warrior, who's going to be the heavy favorite in the sprint. He went out early, as usual, about 5:45, worked in company, stablemate county final, and they were motoring right from the start. They broke off at the half-mile pole, went 5/8 into the turn, 46-3 to the wire, 58-4, finishing with Jackie's Warrior actually edging a little bit away on the gallop out, and galloped out nicely, 6 furlongs in 1:12. So a solid final last move for Jackie's Warrior. As I said, he heads into the sprint, the heavy favorite again this year. Obviously last year at Del Mar he was beaten as an odds-on favorite. He will try to make amends. We're going to give him a mulligan for that one, and looks like he can come back and make amends this year if he runs to that work today, or any of his previous races actually that we've seen from him this year. After the renovation break, we had Edgeway, runner-up in last year's filly and mare sprint, went out immediately. I mean, they barely opened the track, and she was away and running under her assistant trainer, Juan Leyva, and she also zipped along a half mile in 46 flat, continued out 58-3 into the turn. I talked to Juan later on, and he was extremely pleased with the move. He did agree the track seemed tighter today. He said he noticed that when he was out galloping Flightline early this morning. But the Edgeway looked terrific. He was happy. She is a good workhorse, but this was an extremely good move over a track that is not her home track. So she looks like she handled it extremely well. Right after Edgeway, about 2 minutes later, came Aloha West. Kind of a surprise entrance. Now, I know he's the defending sprint champ, but having not run since July, it appeared he was going to skip the race, but trainer Wayne Catalano said he's liked the way he's trained in the last several weeks. He gave him a shot this morning to come over here and see if he can continue that here, and he certainly did. He went 5/8 in 58-4 off a 34-3 early split. Was asked a little bit to finish, as most of Wayne's horses are, coming to the wire, and then galloped out 3/4 in 12-4 with his rider kind of getting up in the irons the last part of the gallop out. I actually went back to the barn and saw Aloha West, and he looked terrific. Did not look like a horse that had just worked 58 and change 2 hours early. He looked nice and relaxed as he was chomping on his hay bale back at the barn. And Wayne also revealed that Joel Rosario, who rode Aloha West in his last start, winning the Kelly's Landing, obviously sticking with Jackie's Warrior. He's Jackie's Warrior's regular rider, so he has gotten Luis Saez to ride Aloha West in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Now, in sharp contrast to all these fast works, the first worker of the day was Rich Strike, who's usually a pretty good workhorse, but this morning it looks like the tactics were different. They didn't want him to do too much. He was certainly in maintenance mode from the minute he left the pole. Went 37-2 the first 3 A's, cruised home in 102-3, galloped out in 116. Different from what I've seen from him in the past. Seen some very fast and very solid works from Rich Strike going into the Derby, and since coming out of the Derby this summer at Saratoga as well, leading up to the Travers. So strictly maintenance today. I'm going to guess they're going to come back with one more with Rich Strike before we get to the Breeders' Cup Day. Rich Strike obviously going to the Classic. And the other big news, the grandstand usually empty at 5:30 in the morning when the track opens up, but there was a bit of a crowd this morning, and I guess they were all out to see Flightline. He had his first regular gallop today with Juan Leyva aboard, just cruising around, nothing major today after jogging here yesterday. I'm going to guess we'll see him pick up the tempo as the days move closer and closer to his final breeze scheduled for this weekend. The turf course was open for works today, but there were no Breeders' Cup horses working this morning. We had a couple of horses for the undercard over Breeders' Cup weekend, but no turf horses Breeders' Cup Turf Horse is working today. I think the turf course opens back up again Friday, and we'll see a lot of business out there as we get closer and closer, and also as the Europeans arrive. Weather tonight, the forecast not so good. Looks like some rain overnight and into tomorrow. Not expecting to see any Breeders' Cup horses on the tab tomorrow, but again, that will pick up too as we get closer to the weekend, and the weekend was going to be extremely busy here, but we are going to be here, so you keep it right here, DRF.com, for the best coverage of Breeders' Cup 2022.